The Voynich Manuscript is a medieval document shrouded in mystery and intrigue. It is an illustrated codex containing over 200 pages of handwritten text, diagrams, and illustrations, most of which are indecipherable to modern scholars. The manuscript was named after its discoverer, the Polish antiquarian bookseller Wilfrid Voynich, who acquired it in 1912. The Voynich Manuscript has captivated the minds of scholars and amateur cryptographers alike for over a century, as no one has yet been able to fully decode its contents. The text is written in an unknown script, with no known language or alphabet, making it one of the most perplexing documents in the history of cryptography. The illustrations in the manuscript are equally enigmatic, depicting bizarre and fantastical scenes of plants, animals, and human figures, many of which defy explanation. Some of the illustrations appear to show plants and animals that do not exist in the real world, leading some to speculate that the manuscript may contain coded instructions for alchemical or magical processes. Despite numerous attempts to decipher the manuscript, it remains an unsolved puzzle to this day. Some scholars have suggested that it may be a hoax or a work of fiction, while others have proposed that it was created by a secret society or religious cult. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Voynich Manuscript is the sheer amount of effort and skill that must have gone into its creation. The manuscript appears to have been produced using high-quality materials and sophisticated techniques, such as multi-layered pigments and binding techniques that were not commonly used during the medieval period. Wilfrid Voynich, whom the manuscript is named after, was a Polish-born book dealer and collector who came into possession of the book in the early 20th century. Wilfrid Voynich was born in 1865 in Lithuania, which was then part of the Russian Empire. He was interested in books from a young age and studied at the University of Moscow, where he became involved in revolutionary political activities. He was arrested several times and eventually fled to London in 1890. In London, Voynich became a book dealer and collector and specialized in rare and unusual manuscripts. He traveled throughout Europe and the Middle East, searching for rare books and manuscripts to add to his collection. In 1912, he heard about a mysterious manuscript that was being held in a Jesuit college in Italy. The manuscript had belonged to the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II, who had a reputation for collecting unusual and esoteric works. It had then passed through several hands before ending up in the Jesuit college. Voynich was intrigued by the manuscript, which was said to be written in an unknown language or code, and he traveled to Italy to see it for himself. After negotiations with the Jesuit college, Voynich was able to purchase the manuscript in 1912. He brought it back to London, where he spent years studying and trying to decipher it. He hoped that the manuscript would reveal some secret knowledge or hidden history, but he was never able to unlock its secrets. After Voynich's death in 1930, the manuscript was sold to a New York book dealer, and it eventually ended up in the collection of the Voynich Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University, where it remains to this day. Despite the efforts of countless scholars and codebreakers, the Voynich Manuscript remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the book world. In the ancient land of Orlai, there lived a tribe of women who possessed a unique connection to nature. Each flowering plant in the land of Orlai offered supernatural benefits to the women. Plants like Ashimbarug or dream root could induce vivid and lucid dreams that can be used for therapeutic or entertainment purposes. On the other hand, plants like condothern or shimmer bloom could pull waste from the women's bodies to grant general health and youth. This granted them immortality, allowing them to live for centuries without aging. No plant was more important than the blushicurth or wisp vine. To connect, the women cut off the flower of the wisp vine and inserted their hands, feet, or both into the stem in place of the flower. When connected, the women could communicate with each other by feeling the subtle vibrations and exchanging messages that only they could understand. Constellations were used so the women would know when and what vine to connect to communicate with each other. This way, women could communicate with each other from lands far away from Auralia. For example, when the stars are in Pisces and Taurus, the women would connect to the festive wisp vine. When the stars are in Aries, the women wear clothing and are in the Chromiance wisp vines for a colorful celebration. When the stars are in Gemini, Capricorn, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Libra, the women celebrate in person in Auralia. Multiple women could communicate through a single vine if they are touching the woman inserted in the vine or someone who is touching the woman. To maximize the connection of multiple women, the women usually immerse themselves in grass or water. For thousands of years, the Auralian women lived in harmony with the plants and animals that surrounded them. Kianahe was a proud member of the tribe, a skilled communicator, and an expert in the use of the plants. One day, while Kianahe was deep in the forest communicating with other tribes' women, she encountered soldiers from the Byzantine Empire. She was immediately captivated by one of the soldiers, a tall and handsome man named Andreas Makarios. Although she could not understand Andreas' words, Kianahe was able to communicate with Andreas through the wisp vine, but it came with dire consequences. The wisp vine could only sustainably carry the soft voices of women and died shortly after carrying the deep raspy voices of men. Kianahe found herself falling deeply in love with Andreas. This was the first man she had ever seen, but she became more enamored with his deep-set brown eyes that seemed to sparkle in the sunlight, a strong jawline that was accentuated by his neatly trimmed beard. He had short, dark brown hair that was often covered by his helmet, and his skin was lightly tanned from spending so much time outdoors. Andreas was muscular and well-built, a testament to his years of training as a soldier. Kianahe led the men to Auralia, but to her surprise, the meeting caused division in the tribe. Some women, like Kianahe, wanted to leave Auralia and be with the men, and others feared the men would destroy their way of living. Over time, many of the wisp vines died due to a third of the women of Auralia communicating with the soldiers. Additionally, some other plants, such as the unkash or quintrilic, which provided strength and energy to those who consumed them, were eaten to extinction by the soldiers. Observing the devastating impact of the soldiers on Auralia, Liliana, a member of the tribe, decided to create a record of their way of life, known as the Zephyristine. She documented the tribe's plans, celebrations, and communication strategies. Although some women attempted to conceal plants from the soldiers to preserve them for the future, others saw the plants as obstacles to the tribe's integration with the Byzantine soldiers. Those who opposed the preservation of plants disclosed their locations to the soldiers, who disposed of them. With all the Auralian plants gone, most of the women gathered what was left of their belongings and followed the men back to Europe, while some remained in the barren land that once was Auralia. Liliana was among the women who left Auralia with the Byzantine soldiers. She settled in Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, where she experienced disease, natural disasters, and aging for the first time. Liliana married a man named Nikos Kaminos and had 3 sons, who perished during the Ottoman conquest of the Byzantine Empire. As the Ottomans looted Constantinople homes, a soldier named Selim Bayezid discovered Liliana holding the Zephyristine. Liliana had passed away from old age at this point. Selim was fascinated by the book's characters, plants, and images of women. The Zephyristine remained in the Bayezid family until Selim's grandson sold it to Jacobi Tepenek. Although Tepenek was an expert botanist, he was unable to identify any of the plants listed in the book or decode the text. He sold the book to Emperor Rudolf II, hoping that his wealth and connections would provide answers to its contents. Emperor Rudolf II had little interest in the book, so it sat in his study for many years until it was stolen by one of his scullery maids. The maid, who often took the emperor's books as written material, brought it to her home. Although she was fluent in multiple languages, she was unable to decipher the book's text. During the book's stay at her home, her husband, aware that the book belonged to the emperor, sold it to George Berch in 1639 to pay off his gambling debt. Johannes Marseille purchased the book from George's son in 1665 and later gifted it to Athanasius Kircher, who then donated it to his church, where it remained for 200 years. Eventually, a scholar at the Jesuit college left the book, which was then bought by Voynich in 1912. After Voynich's death, the book was donated to Yale University, where it remains today. The Zephyristine, later named the Voynich Manuscript, continues to be a mystery, serving as a testament to the ingenuity and creativity of the Aurelian women. It is a reminder that there is still much to be discovered about the natural world and the connections we share with it.